Thank you for sticking around. So as Steve said, I'm Ross Fadner. I'm a director of event programming at MediaPost, and I'm happy to be here this morning with Justin Thomas-Copeland, the president of RAPP. And we're going to try not to repeat too many of the questions from the previous panel, which was fantastic, by the way. Yeah, Justin, why don't you begin by telling us a little bit about RAPP New York, what it specializes in, some sample clients, and what your responsibilities are.
No problem. So first of all, thank you very much. Can everyone hear me okay? Excellent. Sorry, I got a bit of a cold. So I'm president. I run the RAPP Global Flagship Office of New York. We are, and we say this with pride, we're a digital-first consumer and creative engagement agency. But what's critical and what we think is different is that we are people-driven and powered by data. So RAPP's been around for 50 years, talking a lot about CRM and data. And why I like to be in forums like this is because data and the use of it is almost back to the future for us, because it's kind of part of our DNA. It is our DNA. My responsibilities are obviously to run the New York office, so I do that. I'm also Global Chief Healthcare Officer, so I run a network of healthcare professionals across our network. And we look at going deep and helping clients with solutions. And then I'm also part of the global executive team. So
okay. Great. So let's go back to the future a little bit. Give us a little brief history, like not too far back, but of automated advertising, how it's affected your agency, and specifically where kind of programmatic and data fit into that.
Right, so that's a big question.
Yeah.
So I think it's fundamentally changed our agency, and also changed the nature of partnering and how we work within an ecosystem of agencies. So first of all, I think just the fact that everyone has become much more data-driven and data literate and focused around data, to the end of insight and understanding the consumer. I think that's something that we've welcomed, but that is something that has been a very big shift for us, both internally, because we've had to change the nature of our relationships and our dialogues with clients, as well as media agencies being a big part of that. So programmatic, media data, and really for us, the opportunity is where you can mix first-party data, which is what we've always been focused on as a CRM agency and an engagement agency, with third-party data, which is the media landscape. And I think now more and more we're coming together to look at what do we know about our audiences, what do we know about their behaviors, what do we know about their preferences, how and where do you target them? And those are the key changes that are pretty fundamental, because it means that we're engaging much more at a strategic level. We have to keep the eye on the consumer and the focus on the target. And we have to keep our eye on the business accountability that we're working towards. So it's not a technology discussion, really. It's not even a data discussion. It always should roll up to being a business discussion, but it fundamentally changes how we work, who we work, and the cadence that we work. So big changes.
Yeah, so, and we're here today to talk about AI and machine learning. So how does AI and machine learning impact all of what you just said?
Oh, gosh. Right, so
well, why don't you start with a definition first? I mean, I know you've had probably a million definitions over the last 3 days, but it might be a little different for everyone. So just take us through the difference between AI and machine learning and how it's sort of impacting automated advertising. Wow, that's too much.
That's a lot. It's a lot, but I'll try. So in terms of the way that we see AI is really the use of computing power to undertake tasks and processes that normally require human intelligence. So normally a human would do these things. And then I'll talk about ML, and I'll talk about actually what we think about both of those. So ML we talk about as being the opportunity to ingest vast amounts of data and use computing technology to learn without the need for reprogramming, right? Which is really interesting for us, because if you think about direct marketing and CRM, we would always go in and get data, pull our extract, give it to some really smart guys who would model it, have some conclusions and come back to a client. ML fundamentally changes that, because if you can set up computing technology to do that always on, it changes the rhythm, and also you can go deeper and the cycles are different. In terms of the real definition of both of those, internally we talk about it allowing us to understand patterns, right? We're really looking at those patterns and relationships. And very often what AI and ML allow us to do are understand those that are non-obvious, non-intuitive patterns, where the machine will pop up something that you didn't think would be cause and effect, right? And it allows you to look at your client's business, allows you to look at an opportunity very differently. That's where, for us, the opportunity is. It's less about the technology again, but more about the insightful relationships, and then things that we could be activating as a partner to our client. And then again, that means that we've got to talk to the media agencies differently and talk to the clients more proactively, and it changes a whole new way of how we interact. So for us, it's a big thing.
So I'm going to get to that in a minute, but let's talk a little bit about how AI and ML are impacting agencies internally right now. So you touched on staffing, for example. How is it going to impact staffing? A lot of people are worried they're going to lose their jobs. Does it mean you need to hire more folks or less? How how else will it impact the internal structure of an agency? Will it help break down silos? Those kind of things.
Okay, so someone said it on the panel earlier. The first thing that we do is we sort of humble ourselves because it's quite new and nascent and developing and growing. We have to become students again, right? We have to learn again. The way that we are doing that in RAPP is we're taking a global approach to that. So we have centers of excellence around the world that look at AI and ML. They look at technology and marketing sciences. We have 2 centers of excellence that come together as one connected team. Okay. What that allows us to do in New York or in any of our other offices is really scale and accelerate our understanding. So we've had to change how we work internally and organize differently, because if every office tries to do it themselves, it's too costly, it's too timely, it doesn't scale, right? It doesn't make business sense. So that's the first thing. It's like, how do we organize and get the learning? I think the second thing in terms of some of the challenges are around skill sets, right? So we don't believe that people are so much going to lose their jobs. I think the role is for agencies to find a new value statement, right? How can we be more strategic in our recommendations and in our value to our clients? That's really the challenge we have. And for us, we believe that ML and AI has just accelerated that or put a spotlight on it, right? And it's for those agencies to rise to the challenge or not. And so for skills and for staff and for training, we use our Center of Excellence to accelerate that. We form very active groups across our network of people that are writing algorithms, learning from machines. We have also some products. So we've built products in our network. We have a marketing automation product which has integrated ML and AI. We also have built an email prediction product because a lot of clients are doing ECRM. The product we built allows you to predict the results of the campaign before you do it, based on about 5 years of data, right? And we've done that for one of our clients. So we're sort of getting in the bath by building products and learning and piloting. We don't have all the answers, but because we're taking more of a global approach and then having small teams in each office, it allows us to accelerate that and form communities around it and really go back to school and learn together. And we find that young talent like that. They like to be part of global communities. They like to be learning things. They like to know that they can send an email to, it could be Germany, it could be Dubai, it could be Singapore, around a problem, and they can literally get together, and they like the fact that we have products as well. So we are makers. Because we find that a lot of young people want to make things. So we sort of take our wares and almost market internally back to those young talent, the junior talent rather, that we want to keep and we want to invest in.
Interesting. So I always thought that, well, I mean, I'm not in the agency world, but I always thought that it would put a premium on like data scientists and things like that, AI and machine learning. But young talent is...
Well, junior talent, but I didn't tell you the roles. I mean, wow. So absolutely, data sciences and marketing science is a key part of our proposition. So we have very, very senior marketing sciences that run the operations in each office, 20, 25 years, normally pure math, masters of math, maths, mathematicians, statistical gurus. We have those in each of our offices. So they set the bar. We write algorithms, so we have very strong data scientists that do that. And then we have, a junior set of team that come up and learn and are inspired by them. So data science has always been part of what we do, though. So this is why I say back to the future, because we've always had data scientists, mathematicians. I've worked with mathematicians for 25 years. Our chief creative officer, the first, Moa, the first question that he will ask in a brief is, what data and what insights do we have? Right? He's 25 years in the game as well in terms of looking at data and understanding data. So it's that's why it's really back to the future, because it's not new behavior, it's more inherent in our DNA. It's about us now bringing that into more the front office of what we do and how we engage.
Right, and maybe let's get to some examples of how that's kind of happening today. I mean, how is AI and machine learning, how is it all improving marketing communications for your clients now? Can you give us some examples?
I'll give you one. I'll give you a couple actually. The first one is an insurance client of ours. So they really wanted to target the millennial audience, and the way they would do that would be through marketing activation, marketing communications, briefing the media agency, briefing us as a creative agency to deliver assets. We took a different route and said what we should do is think about the use of technology to help you do this, right? And the reason why was based on the audience, on the consumers. You know, they're in social spaces, they're sharing where they go through different life stages. You know, I've got my first job, I've just got my first apartment, etc. So you can target them quite sensibly. But then how they discover the brand, they're not in the market for insurance. They're just not going to be thinking about insurance. But when they're in those life stages sharing content, we could target them, and then we use the chatbot. But it wasn't a chatbot to help with customer service, which is very common. It was a chatbot to introduce them to the brand. So with natural language processing, we had a very intuitive and a very human experience where they could come in and sort of integrate with, okay, this is, you've just understood that you've gone through a life stage. Are you interested in X, Y, Z? These are our products. But it was really about enabling their life more so than selling insurance. So we did some pilots. We did a pilot. We built the experience, and we showed it to the CMO. And this year, they're going to go to market and test that as a new way. So that's one example of us not thinking about the technology, but thinking about the audience, thinking about where and how the brand needs to show up, and helping the brand show up differently. We just happen to use technology to do that. Another example from our network is Domino's Pizza. So we ingested about 4 years of campaign activity, right? Because campaigns were doing okay, but they were just doing okay, and we wanted to improve them. So we ingested this data, we built a model, and the model really helped us understand what types of campaigns have an impact on their business, because they had sales data as well. So this was end-to-end, 4 years or so of data. And what it allowed us to do was have a predictive model of when and what types of campaigns they should be going to market with. So it was everything from the timing to the assets. We actually looked at the different assets within a banner, and we broke them down, because obviously that's what you do. You break them down into their component parts. So we understood whether it was a blue background or a green background, what sort of image in the ad was really winning. Was it a car, was it a person, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And through that knowledge, we were able to sort of say to them, these are the types of campaigns that we should be doing. This is how and when we should be timing those campaigns. But also, this is when you shouldn't be doing campaigns. Because we had sales data, we could understand, actually, maybe you should black out and not do campaigns at this point. So it's just given, again, clients a way of, you know, understanding how they go to market, when they go to market, giving them intelligence, and rolling up to business metrics that we're accountable for.
And how did the client receive the intelligence? Was the client, Domino's Pizza in this case, were they, I don't know, I mean, were they skeptical at first, or did they trust you based on your modeling, or like?
Yeah, I was talking to the guy that ran the program. I think there's always just, like, we're all humans. Anything new, and we just want to kind of know that it's going to work, right? So there's always a journey of getting access to data, you know, letting them understand the value of a model, you know, starting small, right?
Yeah, I've heard that many times.
They've also got to go back into the business and get stakeholders on side, right? You've got to go back to the media agency and get the media intelligence. So there's a lot of conversations. You know, it sounds really clean and easy, but there's actually quite a lot to go back in and do. And that's sometimes the often forgotten part of this, that you have to go back into the business and ask new questions and go to new stakeholders and get more people on side. So that's a process.
Yeah, and I've heard the start small thing before. Wondering if, is that the AI, like ML strategy for agencies today? Because, you know, the previous panel kind of asked, like, what is an AI ML strategy, right? But is that what it has to be in 2018? I mean, until it's more...
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we don't really talk about having an ML or AI strategy with our CMO or CEO clients. We talk about their business strategy, and we talk about the marketing strategy that we have to contribute towards. So, I mean, I generally have never had an AI ML discussion with a CMO, but I have showed them solutions that use ML and AI, but it always led us up to a business strategy. And I think that's where agencies maybe have to get better at sticking to be business focused and, you know, be business relevant. And then whatever that strategy is, whether it's an AI strategy, ML strategy, a data strategy, whatever it may be, those things are enablers. And we tend to go that route, thinking of the business strategy first and then the marketing strategy that we inform and build into.
Nice. So, is AI and ML, is it better suited to certain kinds of clients? Is it better suited to, like, as it is today, say, is it better suited to certain kinds of clients? Is it, is it absolutely necessary to go out and give it a shot today? Thoughts on that?
So my thought is, I think there are some verticals that do have a natural affinity with data, just because of how the business works. So finance, for example. I think retail is another example where there's natural opportunity. I think healthcare, definitely. There's a lot of opportunity in the healthcare space. So I think there are quite a few that you would naturally tilt your hat towards. I think education is an often forgotten one. Education and technology together, and taking that to scale, to global scale, that's definitely an area. So you have MOOCs and new technology-based platforms that are using this, but I think we could push further in. So yeah, I think there are some that are more in terms of getting your client on side, in terms of getting quick traction, and in terms of having business cases and use cases that the client will readily understand. I think those are some of the industries that you'd look for first.
Justin, could I ask you to back up on that question a little bit and drill into why those categories? What are the intrinsic qualities of those categories, and how do they map well against the current capabilities of AI and ML that make those good matches now?
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know, pick one of them,
right.
Retail, health, whatever.
Yeah, so maybe I'll pick retail only because I love retail. It's a bit of a passion of mine. So I think retail is always, my first job was in retail, right, at 14 years old, in London. And, retail, you look at your sales every hour, right? And by lunchtime, I knew whether I was going to make my day on a Saturday, right? So no computer in sight, all in forms, but I'm filling out data. I'm looking at the till receipt, I'm looking at the till roll, I'm seeing whether I'm selling my polishes with my shoes. It was a shoe shop, right? So there's these relationships between different items that you sell. And all of those things, fast forward 30 years, are what happens on an ASOS.com or a Ukes.com, which is an app-based business. And I think the fact that retail is always, and I think will always be driven by data, right, and data points, I think predisposes it to look at things like ML and AI, because it's just a natural progression. There's no real selling needed. It's more about how you can drive new value and speed up and work at retail speed. And I think one of the things of agencies, the whole agency model in a space like retail, is being able to operate at retail speed, right? Retail speed is every hour. You haven't got 3 weeks for a creative brief. But if you can use ML and AI as always-on learning, that can be infused in media choices and media strategies, and you're literally, marketing investment is happening as you're learning. Those things are they just go together. They just make a lot of sense.
That's a fascinating example, because essentially what you're saying is that AI and ML work especially well in those cases where there's actually a human intelligence that has been making these kinds of predictive analytics all along.
Right.
In many ways, it's enacting a
Completely.
process that in a rudimentary way
Completely.
retailers have always done.
Completely. I was doing that at 14. I would know at 11 o'clock literally if I was going to make my Saturday. And if I wasn't, I'd be in a bad mood because I couldn't go out Saturday night with my bonus. So you then switch things up. You literally change the way the shop was laid out, etc. You do all those things online now, right? You serve up different ads, you serve up different products. Amazon does it every second, right? So these are things that are back to the future again, but this is where technology can play a fascinating role.
Yeah. So for more top of the funnel clients, do you find that you have to maybe like manage their expectations a little bit for what is possible with AI and ML today, or what kind of conversations are you having with?
Yeah, we have, so one of my clients in New York is a global B2B software brand, and they do a lot of top of funnel, middle of funnel, demand generation work. We have not brought an AI ML discussion to them, but we are bringing a discussion around how do we accelerate brand demand, and how do we use technology and have propositions to do that, right? So part of that is a content strategy discussion, because they need to get into the content game. They need to be relevant and they need to be present with points of view in order to drive the top of funnel interest. And the way they're doing it at the moment is a little bit analog, and we think there's a way that they can do it which is much more driven by technology, so there's more speed. And then within that we want to be learning as we go, so using AI and ML in order to have a quick strategy and a smart strategy of how they go to market. So I think for those clients, it's a different discussion and arguably a slower discussion, and that's where we're looking at piloting. And that's where we're looking at making sure that we go back to the human and the target. So what are the information needs that a CEO needs in order to sign that CapEx check to change their whole computer and IT system? That's a big decision, right? But you can target the CEO in social spaces and online, but you need content that is of that level. So you need rich content, deep content, and you need to be able to time that. So that's a slower discussion, but it requires a more methodical approach. And that's an example of where we drive top of funnel, not from a technology standpoint, but from an audience standpoint. You know, and that we hope we will be going to market this year with some pilots around that.
It's kind of more of a long game approach.
It's more of a long game, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, different industries have different speeds and different audiences.
You touched on this in the beginning a little bit, but I want to dig a little deeper into sort of how you think AI and machine learning can sort of help you know, agencies that work with other agencies and other third parties for a common client. I mean, is there a way? I mean, do you see that as being something that can benefit? AI and ML can help benefit you guys working together, or? Absolutely.
So one of the things that we're currently doing is really redefining how we work with media agencies as one partner. We have to find a new language, an evolved language probably is a better way of saying it, that we look at first-party data, which is what we are, you know, historically, you know, experts in managing, leveraging and understanding first-party data, so the brand's data set with third-party data and what's happening in the media landscape. I think for us, that's a strategically critical starting point, because of the amount of media investment, and I think because of the capability of media in the past few years, with programmatic, DSPs, always on, etc. Obviously, there are some challenges, you know, viewability and fraud and things that are coming with that. But I think, you know, the data sets and the learnings that's coming out of that at scale, that's hugely exciting for many a client. So I think we have to work differently with media partners. I think we as creative agencies and engagement agencies, we have to think about our partner set. Some of our solutions are very technology first, digital first. So we have to think about different partners that we want to work with, that we bring in. And also just, I would say, agencies have to think about broadening their stakeholder management, because it's not always just about the straight marketing team and the CMO. You know, the CTO has a voice. You know, the data lead has a voice, right? So you have to think about different technology and marketing partners that as a combined agency team, you go and engage. And that's quite fundamentally different. So we're working closely with, you know, we have the Omnicom Media Group. We work across that group more and more in pitches and existing clients, because we know that we as an engagement agency, we don't have all the answers. So that's definitely changes that we have.
Yeah, and you touched on like fraud and viewability. I mean, do you think that AI and machine learning will help stamp all that out, or what do you think the sort of future of?
I think it would be big for me to say yes or no. I think it's. I mean, look, it's a discussion point that we hear a lot in and I hear a lot in meeting rooms. I think clients are definitely asking media agencies to really kind of think about it, step it up. What controls are you putting in place? There's more accountability that's being asked. We personally think any accountability is good, right? It's good for the discussion. We should welcome that. I think from our perspective, as we start to think about the types of experiences that we want to have in front of our customers and clients, we have to be part of that discussion as well. We have to know where we're targeting. We have to know the viability of the data. We have to know performance. So I think it's a joint discussion. It's not just about the media agency stepping up and eradicating that. I think it's a joint effort about getting smarter about where we put our clients' brands, you know, knowing why we're doing it, and having the robustness of data that says that actually we're pretty confident that this is, you know, this is hitting the benchmark of viewability, fraud, etc. I think that's just an ongoing journey, and data can help with that.
Great. So I'd like to invite you guys to ask some questions.
Anybody have any questions, Justin?
I did. So
yeah.
With RAPP, you're a very large organization.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
There we go. RAPP is a very sizable organization, not only in terms of RAPP itself, but it's various offices and on top of it inside a larger. So you see a lot of different clients, and I would be really interested to know if you have any sort of segmentation on readiness that you see, like certain clients not even close, others cutting edge. Like, how does it break out in your world, and how do you use that to kind of guide your business?
Right. It would be remiss of me if I were to put our clients on the spot, but I can give you a sense, right? No, of course, I can give you a sense. So I think in our client set, and it'll probably be different for different networks, we see that automotive is one sector that is truly leaning in. You know, driverless cars, you know, government policy on emissions, you know, being carbon neutral, all these things, you know, and also consumers, and, you know, I've got a 21-year-old, a 17-year-old, and a 9-year-old, right? My 21-year-old does not want to own a car, right? She does not want to even pass a test. Why? Because I just get Ubers, Dad, right? So I think automotive is definitely one sector where they have no choice but to lean in and understand the dynamics of their industry. It's not a marketing question, it's an industry and sector question. They have to reimagine themselves. I think healthcare is another one, because I think, you know, not just because of my global role, but actually, you know, people do want control of their health, right? They want control, they want access, they want to understand much more. And, you know, I think it's now incumbent on the healthcare brands to also reimagine themselves and think about how they do that. How are they providing and setting up their brands as service? We see, I hear a lot of conversations, CMO level, you know, about reimagining the whole sort of brand portfolio, going to market, be more service and utility based, not just with patients but also with HCPs. You know, they're in a spot where they know they have to change things. And, you know, and platforms like Google are giving them control and insights and knowledge where they're, you know, let's ask Google before I go and ask my doctor. That's an industry shift. I mean, and that shift costs money, right? You know what I mean? So these are business problems. They're not behavioral problems, they're business problems. And those are some of the 2 examples in our portfolio where we see some fundamental questions being asked, you know, and we're trying to help to find some of the answers.
Yeah.
Does that help?
Well, we're going to wrap and move to roundtables now, but Justin, thank you very much.
Thank you.